Okay, I guess we're good to go, right?
Yes, you're good to start.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order on August 9th, 2021, Forest Grove School District Board of Directors meeting, which is called to order at 5:34 p.m. I will do roll call of board members. Narcy Rodriguez,
Here.
Brad Befaro,
Yes.
Mark Everett, is Mark here? He's here, but maybe he's
Yes,
not.
yes, sorry, I was muted. Sorry.
Okay. And Valerie Ingram is excused for tonight's meeting. The school board will hear public comment for unscheduled public appearances received through the designated email address, which is public comment at forestgroveschooldistrict.k12.or.us, and is on the district website. We have also added an option to comment live via Zoom. Patrons who wish to comment via Zoom should have already registered as a participant and emailed to public comment at forestgroveschooldistrict.k12.or.us, indicating they were going to provide a comment. If you are providing your comment live as a Zoom participant, please be sure your full name is displayed in your Zoom profile. You can change that by clicking on the participants button, hover over your ID, click rename, and type in the correct information, and then select OK. Comments will be read by district staff or live via Zoom at the appropriate time on the agenda and will be limited to 3 minutes. The flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I wrote up a short comment, and then we'll introduce our audience and our staff. On behalf of the board, we would like to welcome everyone to our August 9th board meeting. This past June, the board and our superintendent discussed resuming school to 5 days a week and having in-person board meetings. We were looking forward to returning to some semblance of normal after this past year and a half. However, in the last 2 weeks, the new data emerging about the COVID variant made us take a pause and reevaluate our board meeting of August 9th to learn and gather additional information from the Washington County Health Department and the medical profession. How do we manage everybody's health and well-being safely? As this information of the variant was new and evolving with a substantial increase of positive cases in Washington County, we decided to be cautious and continue in the Zoom format for this meeting. We will be monitoring the positive cases of the variant in Washington County and hope the numbers go down so that we may have in-person board meetings. This past year and a half has been so challenging for our students, our staff, our parents, and community. I want to commend and thank everyone's effort in working to the best of their abilities to cope. We believe with what we have learned from other school districts across the country, our medical professionals, that with protocols in place at our schools, our children would be able to safely return to a 5-day school week. At this time, it is our hope that we can go forward with this plan. The governor has now made it a requirement that all school children in public, private, and charter schools wear a mask due to this new variant and the infectious rates within our county. This is not a decision that the board can make. We are hoping this requirement will be lifted so that local control will be returned to us. The board would like to thank everyone for their thoughtful emails and concerns. We appreciate your input and engagement. We all want our children in school 5 days a week, safe and healthy. Thank you. Tonight we'll do introductions of the audience and staff. We've already introduced the board members, so who would like to go next?
John O'Neill, Assistant Superintendent.
Kevin Noreen, Director of Human Resources.
David Warner, Communications.
Kimberly Scherer, Director of Student Services.
Enrique Piñon, IT Manager.
Dave Parker, Superintendent.
Is there anyone else that we're leaving out? No?
That's it.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? I'll second it. All those in favor? I'll take a roll call. Brad,
Yes.
Narcy,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. Do we have any correspondence celebrations, Dave?
No,
Okay. Student representative,
still working on that.
okay. Calendar notes,
No calendar notes, but it's kind of related to my comments.
okay. Recognition. This is summertime. Everybody's on break. Superintendent's report.
Sure. Thanks, everyone. First, I just wanted to acknowledge that right now everyone's frustrated. We all want to be done with COVID. And as of about 3 weeks ago, I thought we were going to be going into the school year a lot differently than we are today. However, there's some optimism to be found. Our goal last spring was to get students in school every day for a full school year. Our plan is to begin this school year with students going full-time 5 days a week. So that's the goal here. In the middle of July, I sent out a survey to parents asking for their feedback regarding masks for students, and specifically if this was a parent choice piece. At that time in Washington County, there were about 25.7 cases per 100,000. And we've been at that low rate. You'll see some data coming up here in a second. We've been at that low rate for about 3 to 4 weeks. Things were loosening up. I had a vision of being able to start the school year in a situation where we could allow some choice. From our survey that we sent out, there was a clear majority of parents who responded that they wanted to have some choice, some feedback in the choice of masking for their children. The survey got uploaded to Facebook by somebody, and now I'm not sure what to say about the exact numbers. But what I can tell you is the survey in the first hour had a majority of folks wanting some choice. And in the second hour, wanting some choice. In the end, there was still a majority of folks who wanted choice. The only problem is that's not where we're at now, which is things are changing in Oregon around the Delta variant. And it's not the same situation that we were at. I want to take just a second and go over some of the data. I pulled these screens either last Thursday or today. So there's basically, this is kind of the curve since the first days of the pandemic. And what you'll notice is last winter, November through January, we had a very large surge. In May, kind of April through May, we had another surge. And this is what's currently going on. Here was the beginning of July, middle of July, and then this is what's going on in our state right now, which is we're seeing another surge. This is the state of Oregon. I also grabbed Washington County. So these are the numbers for our county. Again, we've got the surge right in the middle in December, January of last year. We've got the April, May surge from last spring. And what you're noticing, while it's lower right now, what we are seeing is a very large increase in the number of cases in Washington County. This is our 7-day moving average. It's 6 weeks of time. Each one of these is a different 7-day average. And again, in the middle of July, this is where we were at fairly low rates of virus. What we're seeing now is a change in that. This is the one that caught my attention when I saw it. What this is this is the different variants over a period of time. Each one of these squares is basically a week. And what you'll notice here is that as of about 4 weeks ago, the end of June, this yellow here is the Delta variant. And it was between 8% and maybe 15% 4.5, 5 weeks ago. It now makes up more than 80% of all of the variants that they're seeing that they're testing in our state. They've likened this transmissibility to chickenpox and measles. So it's a very transmissible variant. Lastly, this was a slide that was presented to us by Dr. Seidlinger, the state epidemiologist. And what this is they've basically they've plotted a line. These are the actual observed new doses over time. Again, we've got the December, January surge, and then we've got the April through June surge from last spring. This is their predicted transmission persists at the same rate, which is if things keep going the way they're going, they've got a pretty exponential that they're talking about. This could equal the December, January surge. Now, we're putting into place new measures. You saw that Multnomah County just said that all indoor dining is masked up again. So you have different parts of the state are taking action. So my hope is that we're not going to see that curve, but that's what's being presented to us right now is that this is a changing landscape. So this is a new landscape that we find ourselves in. It's disappointing that we find ourselves back in this predicament, but here we are. We're still focusing on bringing in every student every day for the entire school year. That's the goal. With that said, we have a new mandate by the governor. We have new guidance that's been issued surrounding masks. We will comply with the governor's mandate on this. I've been asked by parents, why face masks for kids? There's a couple of reasons why. The first is we're listening to our medical professionals, the Oregon Health Authority, the Washington County Health, and our local medical professionals advise us. We're educators. We're not medical professionals. We count on doctors and epidemiologists to provide feedback, to make recommendations on how best to keep our students safe. And we'll continue to rely on those experts. Our medical professionals, another reason that we're doing this, our medical professionals are telling us that masking is shown to be effective in limiting the spread of COVID. So much so that we received, many local districts received a letter from 430 pediatricians and doctors in the Washington County, Multnomah County, and Clackamas County area. In this letter, they're basically telling us that it's in our best interest of our students to make sure that kids and adults are masked up. We'll make this tomorrow. We're going to send out communication around this, and I will make this that letter available so people can see that. Lastly, when we keep kids, when we do this, it's going to help us keep from quarantining students. Currently, what the rules are in Washington County, and this will be dictated by Washington County Health, when both kids are masked and they're exposed, have a close contact to COVID, we will not need to quarantine those students, most likely. If one of them or both of them are unmasked, then both students, even though they may not have it, they just came in close contact with a person with COVID, we would need to quarantine them 14 days is what we're being told. So masks are going to help us make sure that we can have all students in class every day for the full year. That's the goal. What if we don't comply? What if we say we're not going to do this? There's a couple of things that happen here. One is if we don't comply, we put students at risk of spreading the virus and becoming sick themselves. If we can avoid that, we want to. Two, that also means that if students aren't wearing a mask and I already said this part, which is we don't have to quarantine them. The third thing that happens here is last year they passed a House bill. It's called House Bill 4402, and it basically protects the district from liability suits having to do with COVID. As long as we're following the guidelines put out by OHA and ODE, if we're following those guidelines, then we have this House bill that protects us from suits. As soon as we violate those things, we open ourselves up to substantial losses and to liability. That's not something that we're going to do. Last thing is OSHA. What we're being told is OSHA is the branch of the government that would implement these changes, and OSHA can fine us for fine the school district for $500 a day per violation. I don't have any information on this, but what I know, this is what we're being told surrounding this. Last kind of question that I know has come up is, can the governor do this? Yes, the state of emergency is still in place, and the part of her executive order that allows her to do this is still there. And then I'm going to call out again, yes, this is very frustrating. We'll send out information tomorrow to the whole community. The basics are, starting August 12th, all people within a school during the school day will be masked. Our summer schools have been continuing that anyway, because we just didn't know where this was going. But for sure, starting August 12th, all people within a school during the school day will be masked. The district will follow the district office will follow the same rules as schools. After school activities and athletics are voluntary activities. And so they're still being considered under local control. We're meeting with our local districts to talk through how we want to handle that. There's lots of coordination that we do because of our teams are playing each other. And so we need to have rules that work. OHA will look at this monthly, and what they've told us is they will return local control when they believe it is safe. Currently, I don't have any notion about what case rates OHA would say is safe. So we don't have any indication of what that might be. I understand this is frustrating. I know it's frustrating for our community. I know it's frustrating for our staff. But if this is what it takes for us to restart our schools, care for our students, our staff, and the community, and ensure all of our students are going to be able to go to school 5 days a week, all day for the entire year, this is what we're going to do. So those are kind of my comments to get us started here. And I will turn it back to Kate.
Thank you very much, Dave. The unscheduled public appearances. Dave and Kathy, do we have any emails? I guess I would read this first. The board appreciates community members sharing information during public comments. Public comments should be submitted through the designated email address and will be read by district staff or registered Zoom participants who indicated through the email address they will be providing their comment live. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, as is the protocol for board meetings. Public criticism or complaints about school district personnel are not allowed at this time. When it is your time to share your live comment, your name will be called and district staff will connect you to the meeting. Please state your name and relationship to the district before you read your comment. A district staff member will be timing the comments. They will alert you with a 1 minute remaining. The question and answer is available if you're having technical problems, but it is not for public comment. Are there any comments that will be given live?
Yes, we have 5 comments that will be given live. Enrique, would you like to enable our first one, which will be Aaron Lloyd? And once Enrique will switch you over to a participant, which will then give you access to enable your microphone and your camera. And then once you start, I will start the 3-minute timer, and then I will come in and give you a 1 minute warning. And then after the completion of the comment, Enrique will then transition you back to an attendee, and then we'll move to the next comment.
Am I good to go?
Yes. Thanks,
Okay.
Aaron.
Hi, board members. My name is Erin Lloyd, and I would have had 2 daughters in the Forest Grove School District if not for this mask mandate. At the last meeting, I shared my opinion strongly opposing the mask mandate for K through 12 kids. I cited many resources pertaining to the ineffectiveness of masks and how children are neither vulnerable to nor spreaders of this virus, as well as provided links to articles illustrating just how unhealthy masks are, all in order to defend my position. I expect you all have done your due diligence and looked into those, so I will take a different approach this time and share with you the effects that masking has had on my 7-year-old daughter, Eva. Eva is very smart, a quick learner, and a social butterfly. She makes friends very easily, and her excitement for learning and going to school has always been evident. Before COVID, she attended kindergarten unmasked. In first grade, she had new classmates and was isolated at home under the CDL model, where her attention span dwindled and she got lazy in her work. She wanted to go back to school when hybrid became available, so she began wearing a mask 3 hours a day, 2 days a week. Please take note, this totaled only 6 hours per week. Since she had a taste of school, both unmasked and masked, I decided to ask her a couple neutral and unbiased questions in order to encourage a genuine response. I asked, how did you like school in kindergarten when you didn't have to wear a mask? She responded, I loved school. I got to make friends really fast. I was excited to go to school and learn new things. I then asked, when you had to wear a mask at school, how did it make you feel? She said, I didn't like it. I couldn't breathe. I had to take a lot of deep breaths. It hurt my ears and nose. It made me feel sick inside and gave me headaches. People could barely hear what I would say and couldn't see my mouth. It was hard to learn new things because I couldn't hear other people when they talk. I felt self-conscious and it made me feel shy. I felt like it was hard to make friends because we couldn't see each other's faces, and I was not excited to go to school. What I've just described is the effect that masking had on a child that fits the profile for being the least affected. You may think that only a small percentage of kids are negatively impacted by masking due to some individual aspect of their personality or health, but this is not the case. We are blessed that our oldest has a zest for learning and a talent for making friends, but a mere 6 hours a week at school in a mask negatively impacted her socially, academically, and psychologically.
1
6
minute
hours
remaining.
a week. Pardon me?
Sorry to interrupt, but it's 1 minute remaining.
Okay, it dampened her spirit, damaged her motivation, and diminished her positive attitude towards school. It made her feel separated from her peers and her teacher and made her feel physically unwell. This fall, kids will be expected to mask for at least 30 hours a week. So what happens to those who aren't as naturally enthusiastic to learn, who are shy, who have a physical disability or who have a learning disability? How are those kids supposed to stay on track under these circumstances? My daughter had everything going for her academically and socially, and even she was negatively impacted by masks. How much more will other students and families have to struggle with all the negative effects that masks cause? I urge you, regardless of your personal stance, to do your duty and represent us to your superiors. Relay our message in opposition to mandating masks at school and in support of returning the choice back to whom it belongs, the parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Enrique, our next individual will be Lance Daly.
And I'm looking, and I apologize, right now I'm not seeing Lance Daly in the list. Let me make sure I'm not missing anyone. David, I don't know if we want to move on to the next person. We can come back because at the moment I do not see Lance Daly in the list of attendees.
Okay, let's move to Angela Christofferson.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm glad I could join by video. My name is Angela Christofferson and my children attend a Visitation Catholic school. So they're actually in private school in Forest Grove. Although my boys do not attend public school, I felt compelled to share my story of how masking students full-time while at school has impacted my children, along with all the other rules of social distancing. I'm not a doctor nor a statistical genius when it comes to the virus. However, I can share the negative psychological effects that masks had on my children personally. After going through the quarantine that began in March of 2020, my kids were thrilled that they would be able to attend school again in the fall in person. It was an option that I felt very blessed to have, being that public schools were choosing to learn while remote. This option did not work for our family as both my husband and I work full time. However, I never imagined how these restrictions would affect my children's mental health. After 2 weeks of in-person schooling, my youngest started to beg to do distance learning. I tried to explain to him that we can't do this right now because mom and dad have to work. He then started to come up with every excuse that he could think of and fake illnesses to stay home. He then resorted to having all-out tantrums and crying nonstop. Every night before bed, there was anxiety over the following day, knowing that it was a school day. My husband and I tried everything: reward programs, taking away privileges, grounding, timeouts, you name it. There were days that the principal had to physically drag him out of our car at drop-off and escort him into the school, all while he's kicking and screaming. I cried most mornings because I was completely lost. I didn't know what to tell him, nor knew how to console him. He hated wearing a mask and hated being told he couldn't be within 6 feet of his friends, even at lunch. I'd also like to mention that my youngest is nearsighted and wears prescription glasses. He refused to wear his glasses last year because they would fog up with a mask on. Despite all of the problems, he finished first grade at a reading level of a second grader who was 8 months into the school year, and his math skills measured at the same level.
I'm sorry, that's 1 minute warning. Thank you.
I can't help but wonder how he would have scored had he not been held back by the governor's restrictions. My oldest child, who struggles to focus at school, had a really rough year. I never thought I would hear the words, I've had thoughts of suicide, come out of my child's mouth. My oldest does struggle with relationships and communication, so you can only imagine how masks made these struggles 10 times more difficult. So many tears every day after school, followed by everybody hates me. When a kid sees a person's face and uses those nonverbal cues, there is far too much miscommunication that can happen when they can't see their face. Due to his mental health, we've utilized counseling to help with his depression and anxiety for both of my kids. My question to the school board are, how many more kids will need the same counseling or will have thoughts of suicide? How many more kids will refuse to go to school, and how many more kids are going to fall further behind? How many kids will not be heard? And finally, when will you advocate for the future of our children? Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Enrique, we can move to Robert Lloyd next.
Okay, I am here. I gotta just share. I'll start my video. Sorry about that.
Thanks, Robert. I'll break in and give you the 1 minute warning.
Okay, sounds good. First, I just want to clarify, I do want to believe that everybody wants kids back in school. We want them to be healthy. Second, I don't believe that anybody on the board had any say in the governor's mask mandate. I know it's frustrating, especially since it carries a penalty of $500 a day for noncompliance. But also understand there's two sides to the debate, but we need to leave this in the best interest of the kids and leave it into the parents' hands. Why are we forcing kids to mask? Why are we protecting adults? Why are we having children wear masks, especially at this stage in the pandemic? If almost all the adults are able to get the vaccine or wear a mask to protect themselves. I wholeheartedly believe that kids wearing a mask is wrong. Children should not be responsible for the health of adults. If adults can protect themselves, they should. The least physically affected by this virus may end up being the most psychologically impacted. The long-term psychological effects on our children do not outweigh the risks of being unmasked. My children are at a vulnerable stage in their life where they think that masks are now a normal part of life. Masks are not for healthy people to wear around other healthy people. You should protect the immunodeficient like we did when there was the flu. You should stay at home if you're symptomatic. Wash your hands, practice good hygiene, avoid any sickness. Adults that work within environments with inherent exposure should understand that they can protect themselves in a few different ways: distancing, vaccine, mask, work from home, for example. In the same way, teachers and staff that work at the school or visiting adults should be the ones to wear the masks if absolutely necessary. If we're concerned with the kids bringing the virus home, then and contracting it from a surface, then that's where the kids acquire it. Bring it home, transmitting it, then a mask won't help that. A mask will only encourage kids to touch their face more. Wiping surfaces down with disinfectant, having children wash their hands with soap and water before they go home will minimize the risk of taking the sickness home. We need to stop using fear with science to stop the spread of this coronavirus and instead use logic with science. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, there's anywhere between 3.6 to 4.1 million children, and I know the numbers fluctuate.
1 minute.
Have tested positive for this. There's a 0.01 of these children have died, which nobody wants. All the children that have died have had underlying medical issues that were exacerbated by this disease. But it's not the healthy kids that are dying. According to the CDC, the older adults are the ones that get sick from COVID. The median average for teachers is around 42 years old, and the average age of retirement is 60. The people in the extreme risk category for this disease are not in the workforce, and it's certainly not the children. The adults at the school need to be just that, adults, and protect themselves by wearing masks. The lockdowns and the mandates have torn our world apart and have been devastating to our kids and to us. We cannot continue to take liberties from our kids and let them have a resemblance of normal. Keep the choice with the parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Our last one, Enrique, will be Chris Wilson.
Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Hello, school board and people of the audience. My name is Chris Wilson, and I am a first grade teacher at Dilly Elementary School. I love my school, and I'm fortunate to work with many gifted colleagues, great families, and incredible students. I'm going to start, I guess, by asking this question, which some of you may remember from years ago. How are the children? Some of you that have been here a long time may recognize that question. I'll give credit. It was actually presented to us as a staff at one of the back to school pre-service gatherings by our Forest Grove administration. How are the children? They kept reminding us to ask. It was a question that was used to drive our decisions, and as we looked to make policies and implement programs. It was a question that got us all thinking and really touched our hearts. And it was a question that has stuck with me every year since, to remind me where my focus should be, the children. So I asked it again, how are the children? Well, I believe that many of our children are frightened. They're confused, they're anxious, they're nervous, they're sad. And for some, I worry that they're beginning to become numb to it all. They are desperate to play with friends and see the warming smile of their teacher. They want to experience school, all of it. They want to run outside and play, sit next to a schoolmate on the bus, work with a partner on a project. They want to read with their teacher. They want to hear stories. They need to touch, hug, sing. They need to explore and jump and run. They need to be kids. I'm asking for you to re-examine the direction that you're headed with the mask mandates. I'm going to impromptu a little here because Dave, I heard you say about Governor Brown that I'm asking that you push back to the governor. I, as a citizen, am pushing back to the governor and to my locals. But I'm asking you as my employer and as a community member to push back, because these masks aren't keeping our kids safe. There really is no science to support those claims. And furthermore, many studies have come out that have shown detrimental effects on children, specifically wearing these masks. They're becoming more insecure at showing their own sweet face. They're becoming more unaware of others' facial expressions. It's hampering their ability to formulate words correctly and hear others. Remember, I'm first grade teacher. They are breathing back in their own expelled air and germs. Even the words on the side of the box, if you've read them, say, these masks do not provide any protection against COVID-19 or other viruses or contaminants. It says it on the box. And they are constantly bombarded with that visual, that visual clue that something's wrong. It's just a burden that our children should not be carrying. If we really want to focus on the health and safety of our children, then let them develop their natural immune system so that in a few years, they are more able to fight off other commonly occurring bacteria and viruses. How about let's teach them how to make healthy choices with their food? Let's model how to move more and sit less. Let's spend time reading to them. Let's get their faces out of the computer and connect with human beings. And please, please let those beautiful smiles out from behind those ineffective masks. Let's fight for them and remember to ask, how are the children? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. We had Lance Daly, who was registered to share his, and he has asked if we would read it, and Kathy Bonson will read his comment.
Okay, Lance has a very short one. It says, I truly feel our voices aren't being heard. Give parents the right to decide what is right for their family. Thank you.
Okay, those were the registered ones. We have several other ones, Kate, that I can read that have asked their comments to be read.
Go ahead.
All right, the first one is, as a parent of 2 FGSD students, I'm coming to you concerned for this upcoming school year. Masking or muzzling our children is child abuse. It not only has so many physical side effects, headache, dizziness, shortness of breath, stomach aches, syncope, and not to mention all the toxins they are breathing in, bacteria, pneumonia, CO2, the list goes on. But what is even more concerning is the mental side effects, depression, anxiety, isolation. The depression rates in children has increased drastically. As a healthcare professional, it breaks my heart to see children 9, 12, 15, you name it, in the ED for attempted suicide. I contribute this to the isolation over the last year and a half. Muzzling our children will only increase this more. As a parent, I'm asking you to let this be our choice on what is right and wrong for our children. Governor Brown has no right to make decisions for our kids. She is not their mother or father. She is basing decisions off of lies and fear. COVID doesn't affect children, and even if a child contracts COVID, the symptoms are mild, similar to the common cold. So please do what is right for the kids. Do what many other school districts are doing and stand up to Governor Brown and say, no, we will let our parents decide what is best for our kids. As a parent, I'm unafraid and won't back down, even if it's at the cost of unenrolling my children. I know so many parents are willing to do the same. Let us be the parents, and as a school district, you be the educators. Let's all remember our roles in children's lives. We as parents make the medical decisions, not a governor who isn't a doctor, scientist, or a parent. So please listen to each of us parents as we stand firm in saying my children will be unmasked this coming school year. It's my right and my choice as a parent. Amber Archibald. Number 2, I fully support Governor Brown's K-12 mask mandate, especially as we are still learning more about the emerging variant COVID strains. We as an educational community are responsible for protecting our children who cannot be vaccinated. I really appreciate how the summer programs have made my youngest child feel safe and able to participate with others while masked. Thank you. Christine Remina, parent of 2 FGSD children. The third one. Good morning. I learned that you will read my public comments at the board meeting on August 9th. I just want to say thank you for requiring masks of students and staff. We are in this together, and I hope this step will help us keep the Delta variant from spreading in Forest Grove. As a vaccinated teacher and a parent of elementary age students, I want to keep my kids and students safe too. Since they cannot be vaccinated, it is up to us as a community to do one small thing: wear a mask. If I can prevent the spread of by wearing my mask, even though I know I won't get sick, I will wear it proudly all day. Wearing a mask keeps everyone safe until kids can get vaccine too. Thank you for doing the right thing. Thanks, Shannon, level 4 language arts and social studies teacher. Dear Mr. Parker and the board of FGSD, I am writing to you today to talk about my freedom of choice. I know I am considered a child and my voice can only go so far, but I am also an individual, a human being, and a student. As a student in your care, I ask to be heard, validated, and respected. This last year, my life has been disrupted and has cheated me and all the other kids in the district out of our basic right to attend school and learn. I have friends and family in other states who never stopped going to school and never had to wear masks. They never got sick. My friends and I were so excited to think that we would be coming back this fall into a normal setting. I am upset that out of all the people this mask mandate affects, the students' voice are heard least. Masks hurt a lot of kids. Myself and a lot of my friends have horrible headaches and cannot hear our teachers or each other. Last year, I was excited when sports opened, but it was hot and I was forced to wear a mask as we ran outside. I could not breathe. I felt lightheaded and sick to my stomach. We weren't even allowed to go into the school to refill our water bottles because the fountains had been turned off. This is not only unsafe, it is wrong. Myself and the other students don't deserve this. Give us the choice to mask up. Let us be normal kids. Our age group is not affected by the virus. It has been proven over and over again in the scientific data. Lots of kids have received the vaccine and feel comfortable to be free with our friends. Some people don't, and that is okay. Anyone should be free to put on a mask or not. The important thing is that we need and deserve the right to listen to our bodies and choose to decide what is best for our health about the masks. Thank you. A Neil Armstrong Middle School student. Next. What frustrates me the most about these mask mandates are the inconsistencies we've been seeing for the last year and a half. The science and data are not being used to back up decisions that haven't been made. Instead, it's overall death rates, broad case numbers, and infection rates of different groups, too much disinformation, not enough transparency, and not enough of the truth. Silence and defer to the powers above, hands are tied, and so on. The DOE, OHA, our governor, and our own district personnel have not been transparent or even remotely specific enough about the data being used to put these restrictions in place. Produce the data that shows K-12 graders are getting sick, dying, and spreading the virus. Provide the health benefits and risks of masking our children, and let the parent decide what's best for their own child and their own personal medical history. Report the increased rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide of children since the pandemic started. Provide these reports to the parents and taxpayers who are the funders of the district. We deserve the truth. I think that's why so many people have a problem with it. Because of this, people are being forced to try to understand a situation that just cannot be understood. Bring the data, bring the peer-reviewed scientific data to back this garbage up, or continue to fight the people who refuse to let scared tactics, misinformation, and outright lies dictate our medical freedoms. Regurgitation of media propaganda and widely generalized rates of infection using an inadequate PCR test don't cut it. Instead, our silence and deference get specific and make an effort to prove to all the parents that it's the children's best interest to be masked for 6 to 8 hours a day and while participating in outdoor sports. Do your job, ask for the data, provide the data, localize power, advocate for your district, advocate for our kids, advocate for your own personal freedoms. Dear Mr. Parker and board members, while I know these are unexpected times, I want to express how I am highly concerned about how things are being handled in our state and our district. There have been numerous things come up in the last year that are extremely concerning for our children's education and well-being. From pulling honors classes at the middle school without input, to removing the resource officer at the high school, to the months it took to get kids started for hybrid after it was announced in our state, to now the mask mandate issue. We can look around the country and see so many success stories with how these things have been handled during this pandemic, things that we should be looking to and learning from. We need to set our bar higher and think outside the box to always be putting the children's education and best interest first. I also want to express that our family and I know many others do not feel like our school community is being represented by our district when it comes to these upper level decisions. School districts around the state are speaking out against this recent statewide mandate, and from the recent Forest Grove survey, it was clear that the majority of parents in our district asked for choice of masks in school. The unfortunate thing is that this survey was never released to show the results, nor were the results shared with ODE or the levels above to show how most felt. I understand you all agree with the masking at this time now that it shows cases increase in Oregon, but families that you represent ask that their voices be heard at the upper levels in decisions also. And last, if masking is enforced for all schools, then the data for these decisions should be shared with families. As right now, it is clear that masking is detrimental to students educationally, physically, and socially. Children are the ones suffering again, for a virus that has been proven not to affect the student population. This one-size-fits-all approach is very misguided and does not fit the picture in many areas of Oregon. Our county has very low rates, given the current increases in cases. An average of 88 daily cases in the last several days in Washington County is equal to 0.01% of our population. If we don't stand for our district choices and cases continue to go up, what happens if the governor mandates school closures and we are grouped with the entire state? Will you fight for kids at that time to stay in school? My request is that we need our district to fight harder for our children. They are the most important ones that these decisions affect. Thank you for your time. Dear Mr. Parker and school board members, my name is Aaron Sikovitz. I am submitting this to be read at the school board meeting on 8/9/21 as I am unable to attend in person. My family and I live in the west end of Forest Grove. We have two amazing daughters who are 4 and 7 years of age. Our oldest has been attending Dilley Elementary for 2 years now. I worked as a nurse for the better part of 16 years. I am a well-educated person with the ability to understand factual data from research studies. I do not believe masking our children is the right answer. I will not go over statistics about how masks are unsafe for our children because I'm sure many others here will cover that. I will say that I have personally seen how detrimental it can be in many levels with my own daughters. I want to share that I understand that there are groups of people who need to be protected as COVID-19 could potentially be detrimental to them. I am not insensitive to their needs. I just don't believe that the potential harm to our youth with prolonged masking outweighs the needs of those at risk from coronavirus. I also do not believe that mandating a vaccine that is still technically in a trial phase is a safe option for our children. I know it is available to those under the age of 12, but it won't be long before it is available and being pushed on them as well. What I do believe is that those at risk need to take precautions to keep themselves safe. A close friend of mine developed a moderate reaction to the vaccine and has been bedridden for 3 weeks after her first dose. Due to her reaction, she is unable to receive the second. Her 21-year-old daughter developed blood clots in both legs following her second dose. An acquaintance of mine who works in the medical field went against her gut instinct and was vaccinated. She wanted to do her part in protecting her patients. She now is dealing with stroke-like symptoms that will likely leave her life with lifelong problems. She is not even 40 years old. The list goes on. I know there are many people with lasting effects from coronavirus as well. My point here is that I don't believe placing these restrictions and mandates on those who are otherwise healthy are worth the risk to them just to protect a high-risk population. You're just robbing Peter to pay Paul at that point. Please allow the decision to be made by the parents to do what is best for their own families. Please do not allow these innocent children to fall any further behind by not being able to hear the teachers or their peers. Please do not allow these innocent children to fall further behind by developing bigger trust issues and not being able to see the faces of the teachers or their peers. Please allow these innocent children to freely breathe. I'll close with this. Iceland has the highest percentage of vaccinated people. Almost 100% of their population over the age of 50 is now vaccinated. With that being said, they are currently experiencing a significant outbreak of the Delta variant. What they are noticing is exactly what we are noticing here. People are not getting as sick when this pandemic began. What they are also noticing is that being vaccinated is not achieving herd immunity as once hoped. Dr. Gunnarsson in Iceland is Iceland's chief epidemiologist in the Department of Infectious Disease Control. Just today, August 8th, he stated, "I do not intend to promote harsh measures in Iceland at this time. I believe that now we must try to achieve herd immunity in society against COVID-19 by letting the coronavirus continue to spread throughout the community. Many people may not agree with that decision, but it just may be what needs to happen. Either way, it is time to move forward and allow these children, our future, the opportunity to thrive in an environment that fosters learning and not fear. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. Kind regards, Aaron Sigovitz." Next. Hello, we are parents to 3 children in Forest Grove School District, 1 entering high school, 1 entering middle school, and 1 entering kindergarten. We have had enough of forced mandates, knee-jerk reactions, and government overreach into decision-making regarding the well-being of our children. What has happened to choice and parental rights? We believe that all children should have the right to an education free from mandates that have not been proven necessary or beneficial. Universal and one-size-fits-all approaches have failed Oregon's school children. Children are not political pawns, and our tax dollars are not to be used to cater to the demands of special interest groups, unions, or any other political organization. Calls for mandates, lockdowns, and universal masking in schools are not rooted in science and have caused significant harm to the most vulnerable in our state. Parents should always have a seat at the table when the issue is the education of our children. We implore you to do what is right and to stop pushing fear, political agendas, and bad science at the feet of the most precious members of society. Enough is enough. Thank you for reading. Melissa and Joseph Belli. FGSD and Superintendent Parker. My name is Lindsay Dober, and I currently have 3 students in FGSD. We can all agree that we're dealing with challenging times, also fueled by many different opinions. This statement is sent with the deepest respect for you and your service, but also the most evident and prevalent frustration. As a parent and community member, I urge you to push for local decision-making approach, where a mask optional option exists for FGSD. This approach shows due respect to the whole of the community, not only a segment, respecting rights of parents to choose the best course of action for their students and families. As an elected representative of our community, it is your responsibility to equitably represent our community, the whole community, equitably and unbiased. Moving forward with the current state-centric approach, severely disregards those who granted you authority to represent them and shows blatant disregard to the position you've been elected to represent. Respectfully, Lindsay Dober. Dear Dave Parker and Forest Grove School Board members, we understand that our governor and the OHA have made a decision to mandate mask wearing for all K-12 students. We understand that you feel your hands are tied. The parents of SGSD feel that even more. We represent all of us, and as a leader in our district, it's your responsibility to stand up for what is right and advocate for what is best for our children, not the general public. We understand that these are unprecedented times and your jobs may be tougher than ever. However, we ask that you fight back against the irrational decision that our state is forcing upon Oregon school districts. We have sacrificed 1.5 years of our children's quality education, socialization, freedom, and overall childhood normalcy to do the right thing and to do our best in tough times. This must come to an end at some point, and the time should be now. We ask that you stand up for our kids. Our kids have sacrificed so much. Everyone says how resilient children are, which is true. However, that does not eliminate long-term effects that they have endured. Our children deserve a normal school year, and time is of the essence. The longer it takes to get back to normal, the longer it will take to get our kids back to social and emotional well-being. Our family was thrilled and relieved when FGSD began the discussion of returning to 5 days a week of normal school for the 21-22 school year. We appreciated the survey that went out to the district parents asking for how they felt about masks. We were also happy to see that FGSD was going to offer an online academy. We were impressed and we felt heard. We thought, wow, we are really making headway in getting our kids back to school. We have an option for those that are not ready to return or those that prefer distance learning, and we have the option for those that are so ready to return to in-person learning. And then we are faced with the detrimental news of a mask mandate. The science is clear if you choose to acknowledge it. It is extremely unnecessary and harmful on so many levels to mask our kids for the upcoming school year. With most preventative measures, we look at the risk versus the benefits. We have to determine that the risk outweighs the benefits. In our current scenario, our governor and OHA have said that the benefit of masking our children outweighs the risk of spreading COVID. Although they may be the authority in making these decisions, it is our job to fight back when something doesn't seem right. Finally, vaccines have been made readily available, and it's not our children's responsibility to protect others from harm. That is a heavy burden and a burden our children should never have to carry. Even if 100% of the population was vaccinated, we cannot ever eliminate the disease and the variants that come from it. At what point do we say enough is enough? That time is now. Please fight back and advocate for our children. They are our future. Sincerely, Jake and Crystal Birch. This is the final one from Mary Whitmore. Thank you for your service. I interviewed a teacher from Emmaus Christian School in Cornelius, and I received permission to present you with her information. For simplicity and brevity, I formatted in the first person. Quote, my name is Karen Reichert. I live in Forest Grove. I served as a kindergarten teacher at Emmaus Christian School, an unaffiliated private school in Cornelius, for 34 years before its closing. For 30 of those years, I taught reading with explicit phonics, which goes by the names of Spalding or Riggs. We used the original flashcards we received from Oma Riggs for the entire 30 years. The only other cost of the program were paper with midlines to help children learn correct printing from day one, and one-time purchases of some textbooks. I met Mary when she came to Emmaus in the early 2000s. She attended a parent orientation and videotaped the session for YouTube. I attribute the success of explicit phonics to the fact that it accommodates all 4 learning styles simultaneously: visual, auditory, verbal, and kinesthetic. I don't remember any students that were not successful as they learned through the years and graduated to attend Forest Grove High School. I would recommend explicit phonics without reservation to the public school system. It is certainly the most cost-effective. If you have any questions, I would be glad to help. I thank Ms. Reichert for her time, which is very valuable. After retirement, she did not rest. She is a foster parent, active in her church, and facilitates a food bank for the elderly. I have not rested either. I have put 70 videos on YouTube so that anyone could access the method. The statewide reading assessment for school year 2018-19, the last year available, show about half of our students, 3,000 children, cannot pass a reading test. That's a very big red flag to me, but not apparently to you. Over the last 20 years, I have given you at least 15 statements regarding the efficacy and necessity for explicit phonics. You paid my training in 2003, and I have provided you with the following references: the International Dyslexic Association, Orbida, the Riggs Institute, the Spalding Education Institute, OrtonGillingham.org, the House Dyslexia Caucus with Representative Susan Bonamici, the David Douglas School District, the Cascade Heights Public Charter School, MITCH Charter School, Archbishop Hunkinson School, Audrey Clark Spelling Camp in Richland, Washington. ORS 235-135A, which required EP materials to be available in K-3 classes. I attended about 6 OAB meetings, of which Yvonne Carter was a member. I was never able to obtain a sample copy of the state's test, but it would not surprise me if the ODE was desperately searching for reading instruction that works. Please don't waste any more taxpayer money on fancy programs that don't work. Pivoting to EP would not be difficult. It would cost a few $1,000s. Consultation with the schools named above that taught remotely during COVID, hiring EP trained teachers to train our K2 teachers, buying reusable flashcards, CDs, text booklets, and lined paper. Do you remember when the taxpayers spent $600,000 in 2010 when Yvonne Carter purchased a Pearson reading program only to see our reading scores plummet and stay down? Leaders have to make tough decisions, but our children's future depends on it. Mary Whitmore. That is the final written response I have to read.
Thank you very much, Dave, for reading those.
Kate, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we had a couple people that didn't email that they wanted to present their comment through Zoom. So can we add those few?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead. Are you going to read them, Kathy?
No, they wanted to do through Zoom, so Enrique will move them over.
Okay, that's fine. All right.
Okay. David or Kathy, if you could just let me know, I guess, who we should add next.
Well, it says that there's 5 of them all together, so it should be logged in under Marcella Crowell. Also Jenny Marino. And Sarah Tills, we read hers. Hers said, please read. So we've already read hers.
All right, can you guys all hear me and see me?
Yes,
Okay, great.
I'll start the timer and I'll let you know when 1 minute comes.
Oh, all right. Okay, there it is. Forest Grove School Board and Administration. I'm a mother of 2, one child who will be entering 2nd grade in the fall and another in preschool. I'm here today to express my grave frustration and disappointment with the Forest Grove School Board and the lack of commitment to represent the Forest Grove community. As a board member, you have each been elected by the people in our community to represent our values, our views, and our desires for the public schools in our district. Our values, views, and desires have been made very clear, yet our voices have fallen on deaf ears. If the survey released by the district is any indication of our desires, it is overwhelmingly clear that the majority of parents are in favor of making the decision themselves when it comes to choosing whether or not to mask their child. Regardless of your personal opinions, your duty is to be an advocate for our community. I challenge the board to uphold their obligation to this community and to put personal opinions aside. Listen to our community and let us decide what is best for our children. It's time for the board to stand up to Kate Brown, ODE, and the other agencies who you claim to have tied your hands in the matter. Your hands are not tied. Instead, you've made the choice to sit on them. I'm pleading with you to make a different choice, to extend a hand and to take action for the sake of the children in our district. Thank you. And I have 4 other people here, as I mentioned, in my Zoom registration. So I'm going to let Brandy Fletcher go next.
Back up a little bit. Hello, my name is Brandy Fletcher, and I have 2 daughters aged 12 and 8, whom I've recently unenrolled from Forest Grove School District due to the mask mandates. I'm not going to sit here and go over statistics or science. I feel like we've heard enough of that. We know overwhelmingly that this does not affect children the way it affects adults. What I am going to talk about are expectations. Every person that sits on this school board was voted for by us, the community. We voted for you in good faith that you would not only get the work done, but you would do it by representing us, the parents of Forest Grove School District. A group of us who are here right here today sat in Parker's office on Thursday talking about our concerns. I learned something that I really want to share, and he went over briefly. The Forest Grove School District sent out a survey to parents asking if they preferred students to be masked or for parents to have the choice. Overwhelmingly in favor, parents were for mask choice. Parker even said, exaggerating, 25-1. Now, that was making it very clear that Forest Grove parents do not want a government co-parent and want the right to choose what's best for their own children. Now it's your turn to speak for the community because we've spoken. We do not have to accept these mandates. We can say no. We will make our own health choices. And you are either with the people of the community who are telling you loud and clear what they want from you, and you have an obligation to take action now on behalf of all of us, or stay silent and, as you've said, comply. This is America, land of the free, where our local elected officials, you, the school board, are supposed to represent us and can make a motion. Someone can second that emotion and tell Kate Brown that the Forest Grove School District is capable of making their own decisions for their children.
1 more minute.
Children deserve better than fear and propaganda from the school and the school district. And if you do not agree and will not represent us, I respectfully ask you to step down from your position so that somebody else can step forward and do your job for you. Thank you.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Amy Patton, and I'm Forest Grove resident and parent of 2 school-age children. I would like to start by imploring Mr. Parker and the board to please advocate for the return of local control of these decisions that directly impact our children, our community. Parents know what is best for their children, not bureaucrats in Salem. And our community thrives when parents, teachers, community leaders work together for the good of our youth. In addition, I have been asked to read a statement from a Forest Grove teacher tonight, and I'm going to do that right now. As an elementary teacher, I am against requiring students to wear masks at school for many reasons. First and foremost, I believe it is a personal health choice that should be decided by parents and what they believe is best for their individual children's needs. Last year was a very isolating and difficult year for our children in so many ways. Wearing masks compounded the stress, isolation, and loneliness. It was difficult to communicate emotions and meet the emotional needs of my students. Positive emotions became less recognizable and negative emotions were intensified. We had issues with hearing each other during conversations and instruction. It hindered my ability to bond and build relationships with my students. It was visually obvious that many students were not coming to school adequately or regularly laundered masks to help prevent bacterial growth and other pathogens. In addition, I witnessed many students tossing, touching, repositioning, and tugging at their masks, which that increases the spread of germs. By requiring everyone to wear a mask, we create a sense of fear and uneasiness in our classroom. For all of these reasons, our students' education was negatively impacted by a practice that is fear-based, unnecessary for people that are not at high risk, and will possibly cause social and emotional issues among our children for years to come.
1 more minute.
Please trust parents to make the best health decisions for their individual children's needs. And again, that was from a Forest Grove teacher. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jamie Ford. I have 2 kiddos in Forest Grove School District. They've been there since kindergarten. I actually unenrolled them last year with the hopes that I could re-enroll them this fall, but I'm not going to be doing that. I have a statement to read from a 40-year local educator, so I'll make my comments brief. As many other parents have expressed here this evening, we understand school districts are working off the direction of Kate Brown. To answer Mr. Parker's question from a brief meeting we had in his office on the 5th, what we want you to do is to listen to the community and relay our concerns to ODE and Kate Brown in Salem herself. It is the school board's obligation as elected public figures to not follow their own agenda, but to be the voice for the community. I also ask that the survey numbers, the results actually be shared because we have never gotten a clear figure from that. And can we also take a moment to acknowledge that all of the cases that were talked about were not based off of children, they were based off of adults. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and read the email received from the teacher. Forest Grove School District. I taught for over 40 years in the Forest Grove, Cornelius, and Hillsborough schools, and I can say without question that education is a shared experience between individuals. It is necessary for every student, parent, and teacher to be safe, valued, and appreciated for learning to take place. All else is just making time. Masks present some very real problems to the learning that needs to go on. Give and take and questioning reacts in real time between real people. I always find that the closer to the student the decision can be made, the better the outcome for all. The federal government and state were far removed to be really of any help to me as a teacher for my 40 years. My parents and my students always made it happen by moving the decisions on masking to the state and federal levels. I fear you are running counter to what good education is all about for very political reasons.
1 more minute.
Need to feel safe including the ones who do not want to wear masks, is every student matters. Then if every student must matter. So let me read that one more time. If every student matters, then every student must matter. Please reconsider and let the families have their say in our community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Anderson and I'm a resident of Forest Grove and have two children that were enrolled in Dilly Elementary. School board members are elected by people in their community to represent their values and their desires for public schools in their district. Thank you for taking the time today to listen to the voices of our community. I hope today will give you all a well-rounded view of where our community stands as a whole and how you can advocate for all of us going forward. Today, I want to specifically discuss the topics surrounding masking our children for the 2021-22 school year. Masking our children should absolutely and unquestionably be a decision made by the parents of each individual child. If we are following science, we would all agree that masking should be an individual decision. The science shows that our children are not at risk when it comes to COVID-19. Masking our children is harmful. It compromises their mental, emotional, and educational well-being. As a parent of two elementary-aged kids, what I am deeply concerned about is having my children masked for potentially 7+ hours a day. During the hybrid schedule last year, I heard my children express that wearing masks makes them feel anxious and that people couldn't hear what they were saying. They said they felt lonely and sad when they had to wear one. I saw them come out of their classrooms with soaking wet masks after just wearing them for 3 hours. I am what's best. I am speaking today because I am the voice for my children. I will stand up and fight for what is best for them. I will not allow my boys to be subjected to 7+ hours a day of wearing a mask to school. Each and every parent should be able to protect their children as they see fit. Mask wearing should be an option, period. Let me repeat to you what the purpose of the school board is. You have been elected to represent the values, views, and desires of the community that you serve. Your personal opinions and your beliefs on this matter are not relevant.
One more minute.
Your personal ideas on this issue need to be set aside, and you need to be speaking for the community that you represent. We have seen this action displayed by several brave school districts around our state that have decided to advocate for their communities and to say no to the mask mandate. I have unenrolled both of my children from Forest Grove School District, and they will absolutely not be returning so long as this mandate is enforced. Thank you.
Is that all the individuals that wanted to speak?
Yep,
Oh,
that's what we have tonight.
okay. Thank you so much for your input and taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope you guys will take it to heart.
Thank you. We will.
Kate, can I have a couple of
Dave,
seconds here?
what about Jenny Marino? Was she still on there, Enrique?
Okay.
Did she get to speak? I want to make sure she has her time.
Yeah,
as
I'm
well.
checking now.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Jenny. Thank you.
Hi. Hello, Mr. Parker and school board. I'm glad that arrangements were made to allow for parents to speak at tonight's meeting. Thank you. It's been made very clear that children have a statistically 0% risk of dying from COVID. This information, along with effective treatment protocols and vaccines being available, has me so frustrated that we're even having to fight this fight. Science and reasoning has been cast aside and replaced by fear-mongering. Fear is replacing our freedom. Masking our children has negatively affected their social, emotional, and psychological development. In fact, masking our kids is psychological child abuse. I will not subject my children to that abuse. I am speaking this evening to urge you to stand up for our children. Please stand up for our kids against this mask mandate and against CRT and against this horrible new sex ed curriculum that's coming. You are elected officials, elected to be our voices, elected to represent our children, us as parents, and our community. Mr. Parker sent out a survey a couple of weeks ago, and it's my understanding the results of that survey were overwhelmingly in favor of mask choice. I am pleading to you to fight for what the majority wants, not what you want. Other superintendents and school boards across the state are standing up and fighting this fight for their community. If you refuse to fight for what the majority in our community wants, which right now is mask choice, we respectfully ask for your resignation. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave, did you want to comment?
Yeah, just a little bit, because I did meet with some parents in my office last week. They did supply me with 5 questions that they wanted me to go and talk to OHA, ODE about. I'm still working on those questions, so I just wanted to make sure that they knew I haven't forgot about that part of it. And again, I appreciate the feedback. There's lots of different opinions here, but I did take notes on what everyone was saying, and there's a couple pieces there that I will try to get some answers from OHA and from ODE around some of these issues. And like I said, I know that everybody's frustrated about this, and we all want the same thing, which is to get kids back in school. So I'll do some more work on that.
Thank you, Dave. I think we're all frustrated that we want our kids in school and we want the best year for the kids. And it's just unfortunate how this variant, the Delta variant, is going forward. We're now at the consent agenda part of our board meeting. The consent agenda is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent items a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, we'll do a roll vote. Mark Everett,
Yes.
Brad DeFaro,
Yes.
Narcy Rodriguez,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. Tonight we have a presentation on the summer program, and John O'Neill will present that. Is Angela with you also, John, or just you?
Angela, believe it or not, has a couple days vacation. She finally
good.
got it. So
Good for her. I hope she has fun with her kids. Thank you.
yes, absolutely. So I do want to give her credit because we worked together on this presentation and she did all the technical work. And I want to thank also David Warner and Enrique Pinon for putting some music to it. For some reason, the music didn't take. And anyway, as you know, I've talked a lot about the summer enrichment programs, the K-8 summer enrichment grant, the high school credit recovery, credit bearing grant, and the child care grant. And we've had a very, very busy summer. So we've talked about some numbers. And I'll give a brief recap because we kind of go quickly over some of the high school credit recovery numbers in this video. But we wanted to bring you some pictures and give you a flavor of the fun that our kids have been having. And we hope that the state will prioritize this in the future for our kids. They really enjoyed these camps and programs. And I just want to applaud once again our teachers, staff, our bus drivers, our food service, our health IA, technology department, business department, everybody at the district office, our superintendent, Dave Parker, our school board for prioritizing these expenditures with the legacy monies that we have. We have new band equipment, new orchestra equipment, and some really cool science stuff, and some technology things that not only our kids benefited from this summer, but we'll be able to use them for years to come. So without further ado, here's a video. And again, thanks to Enrique and David.
Yeah, just a moment and I'll share that.
Thank you, Enrique and David. Just to recap, I know the credit recovery numbers went really fast. 385 graduates in the class of 2021. 320 students have earned 550 half credits, completed courses. So far, they're still going. We have some challenges coming up with weather, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So the credit recovery, we're going to be working remotely at the high school. They're going to be logging on. We are going to cancel the last 3 days of camp, and so is Park and Rec at Tom McCall because of the temperatures and the heat. But it's been a lot of fun. We wrote 8 additional graduates so far, and 110 kids have participated in the child care grant. So again, school board, thank you very much. Superintendent Parker, thank you. It's been a team effort with like zero notice to get ready for it. But our partners in our community, who's who, they really stepped up for our kids. And that's what it's all about. So just wanted to say thank you and give a brief visual presentation here this evening.
Thank you, John. That was really wonderful. It was really exciting. Boy, I wish we could do it every year. Any board members want to ask John any questions or comments? Well, I think it was wonderful. I will say that I was popping into the library and they were loving taking the books out to the kids at lunchtime. I mean, it was a real upbeat. They were so excited. So again, on behalf of the board, thank you and thank your team. What a nice thing for the students this summer.
I just have a question for John, Kate.
Yeah.
So John, can you clarify, you're gonna, because of the heat, the last 3 days of what are gonna be, because there's some other things going on. Right? I mean, what's canceled for the last 3 days? Is it?
The in-person Tom McCall camp, this is the last week at Tom McCall,
Okay.
last week at Neil Armstrong. It's we're gonna hold it tomorrow.
Okay.
Today and tomorrow, but the spike in temperatures
Okay.
earlier this summer proved very challenging.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at. As you know, we have a orchestra concert Friday. So Brian Burke is texting me and Karen and O'Neill trying to figure out a workaround for Friday's concert. And, can we remotely prepare for the concert and still hold it in the evening at the high school somewhere that is air conditioned?
Mm-hmm.
So we're working on it. But the high school will go until the 19th. So they have an additional week. And there are kids there. We were just in there. Those are the pictures from last week. They are working hard with their teachers and staff. And that doesn't count the online school that we have for K-6 that Brenda Lindsay put together with Deb Schenzer and some other staff. And then also the online credit recovery. They will be proceeding online at the high school with their work, the Odyssey work. So anyway, very successful. Hopefully that answers it, Mark.
Yep. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other board members want to ask John a question? Okay, it was wonderful. Thanks for putting the video together. It's always great to see the kids having fun and doing so many different things. And the one thing I would love to see is us bring back swimming lessons for all third graders like we used to have in the district in the 90s. That's just a life skill. Okay, we're going to move on to the action items. The first one is surplus equipment, and Dave Parker is going to present that.
So this year, the high school bought a new pole vault pit this spring, and they've got the old pole vault pit, and Gaston is interested in it. So they're looking at us declaring this surplus and then selling it to Gaston, I think is the basic plan. And I think the motion we're looking for is to declare this surplus. Is that right, Kathy? Yeah, it is.
Do you want me to make a motion, Kate?
Yes.
I move that we declare the Forest Grove High School pole vault pit as surplus from the Forest Grove School District.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Okay, we'll move for a vote, a roll call vote. Mark,
Yes.
Narcy,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. Thank you. The second action item for tonight is contracted staffing services, and Kim Shear is going to present.
So I know she was having some internet problems, and so
Oh,
she's
okay.
trying to get back on. I think the basic gist is this, is that we've got some SLP openings that we're struggling in filling. And so she's going to be using a staffing agency to fill those because they're really hard positions to fill. We actually had one filled, and the person had some family situations and ended up having to not, she had accepted and then she could not. So that's what we're looking at with this piece.
Okay. Any questions by the board?
Dave, this is Narce, and it might have said it in the report, I just didn't catch it. What are the staffing services? Is it an agency, and who is it, and what is it? And
Yes.
You have it in front of you, Dave?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
I have it.
Okay, go ahead.
So it is, yes, they went out to bid 3 different places: Sunbelt Staffing, Therapy Travelers, and Hello Foundation. And Therapy Travelers came in the lowest at $87 per hour. It's for 2 FTE with 2.5 FTE, which are already budgeted. We would just be moving it from payroll to contracted services.
Is this for the year, Dave, or is this, I mean, are they going to be employed for the year and no more looking for speech paths during the course of the year then?
That's a good Kim question. My guess would be this, Mark, which is if we found an SLP, we would start moving to try and hire that SLP. They're very hard positions for us to hire right now, but my guess is that this is going to be probably for the year.
Okay, but is the contract, Dave, a year contract, or is it one? Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's the only question I have. If you have someone that you can hire in December or something.
It looks like Kim just came on.
Okay.
So we might be able to get her to finish it off.
Okay.
Hey, sorry, I'm having real internet problems here. Where are you guys at?
Mark had a question for you, and that is, go ahead, Mark, I'll let you restate it.
Kim, if we agree to hire these, the 2.5, does that preclude us at some point during this school year from hiring a permanent person? Do you know what I mean? If we found somebody mid-year that we wanted to join the district on a permanent basis, could we still do that?
We would be under contract with one of these services, and I believe it would be for the school year. I don't know off the top of my head what the penalty would be if we, but we probably would have a penalty for canceling a contract. In my experience, though, Mark, we've never had that happen.
Yeah, okay.
We would have to open up the position again, and frankly, we had 3 vacancies, and we kind of reconfigured the student need, and we really kind of pared it down. And so 2.5 is actually a little bit less than we had budgeted anyway. But we are down in enrollment, so I think we're able to do 2.5 and still keep the caseloads really quite nice for the SLPs. So we would just be converting the FTE we currently budgeted into a contracted service cost.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Kimberly, I have a question.
Sure.
What does the recruitment process look like for SLPs? I asked that question because Portland State University and Pacific University have pretty healthy enrollments for these particular programs. So just wondering, question 1, how does the recruitment take place for SLPs, or is it just super competitive? And 2, what is the recruitment plan for next year?
Yeah. I can tell you this has been probably one of the worst years we've had. Every single district, I don't know about Portland Public, but every district is trying to recruit SLPs right now. There's another shortage. Some of you may remember years ago we had a shortage of SLPs, and then we kind of had an uptick in people coming out of school. We've contacted the universities, so we've put out all our employment offers out to universities to contact previous students, former students. We've reached out to retired SLPs. And I can tell you, even the contracted service people are having a hard time finding us SLPs. So this doesn't even guarantee that we would find folks. Good question about what the recruitment process looks like going forward, because I think we're going to have to do a lot of work with universities and programs to find out why is there a shortage. I think even the ESD is feeling it. I think some of our current SLPs have received emails from the ESD saying, if you know any other SLPs out there, please let us know. So there, I believe, I'm gonna make an assumption that there's an issue across the state, but I think further investigation, and we will probably rely on Kevin to help us out with that and recruit. We're really particularly focused on trying to recruit some bilingual, bicultural SLPs. We lost our only bilingual SLP this year, so to another district. So that's our focus, even with the contracted agencies. But again, that's a very small percentage of SLPs too. So
Kimberly and Kevin, I highly recommend, if you have an opportunity, to connect with Helen Sharp from Pacific University, who actually has done a great job diversifying her cohorts for SLP. Just sharing that information.
yeah, we've been in contact with the program over there, and over the years we've worked pretty closely with them. We get a lot of students from Pacific. I think, I don't really quite know what the shortage is all to now. I mean, maybe it's COVID, maybe people weren't going into programs, but that's definitely something we'll look into. I appreciate that.
Any other questions from the board members? Thank you, Kim. I will make the motion. I move to approve contracting with Therapy Travelers to fill the vacant position in student services. Do I have a second?
I second.
Oh, go ahead.
We have a second?
This is Narce, I second.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? All right, I will do a roll vote. Narcy?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. Thank you for the vote. We're moving on to future action items. They're listed in the packet. You can look at it online. Is there anything that anyone wants to discuss or add to the future board items discussion? Okay. No comment, and I am going to adjourn the meeting unless somebody wants to add anything at nope, at 7:12 p.m. tonight. Thank you very much. Enjoy the week. Stay cool. Good night.
Good night.